What's up? Let's do this. This week, Drake's lawyers subpoenaed Kendrick Lamar's label, I believe, for weird things that I'm not sure why you would subpoena a record label for. Like records that Kendrick Lamar beats his wife or the paternity of his children. Why would your record label have that? Um, I'm someone who deals with public records, like public records. So looking at that subpoena, I was just like, why would like your employer have that information? I mean, maybe people are like gossipy texting each other. I don't know. That's just odd. And of course, then that brings my attention to the fact that Drake is suing Kendrick Lamar's record label. Like, and somebody made the point yesterday as I was reading through a bunch of different articles, and it's a really good point of like, what is art going to be if another artist sues you because essentially he's offended? And that's a great question. Like, and they meant specifically hip hop, but I expanded it because, as I've written before, I believe due to Pluto being in Aquarius, Leo things are under attack, and art is a Leo thing. So, again, like, and Aquarius seems to be, or Pluto in Aquarius seems to be playing out in courts specifically, as I've also said before. So, like, confirmation bias, yay, but it does make me sad to see very obvious Leo things be under threat, be under attack, or die due to greed and litigation. Like, honestly. But here we are with Drake again. As you can see, I've expanded my screen so that you can see the grid of his chart. And if you are somebody who is new to reading astrological charts, the grid looks like gibberish. I get that. You get used to it real quick because as you are looking at different aspects, so like for example, I'll just pick this. This is Pluto, and it's making a square, and it shows you a little square in the middle of this aspect to Mars here. But if I want to see how close they are together, I mean, I can eyeball and do math, remembering that the minutes only go up to 60. Or I could look over here at the grid and find Mars, go down to Pluto, and see that they are 1 degree and 46 seconds apart. The grid is where astrology really happens, because yeah, you can eyeball it, and unless the numbers are matching up exactly, or you're super good at math, or both, the grid just tells you and you can just know. So I'm gonna switch to sidereal, which I will do because that is my lazy man's way of getting transits exactly right. If we look, but I'll show you Drake's transits with the tropical in place, just so that you can see the difference. Because tropical charts do not account for the fact that the solar system has continued to be in motion since you were born. So if you are doing charts just looking at your chart versus the sky without either doing math, which Rob Hand explains in his book Planets in Transit how to do it, or you can be lazy like me and switch to a different system that does account for the fact that the solar system is in motion. And I am lazy. So, and also I have Aries energy, so I want to find the fastest way to do anything. And so until somebody recommends a better way, this is what I'm going to tell people to do. So Drake is the last degrees of Leo rising, 2951, and you can see the sign Leo is on the ascendant. The planets that we are going to be talking today are the Sun, Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus, I believe. So the Sun rules first house, Pluto it rules the 4th house. Saturn rules nothing. As you can see, Sagittarius is a sign on the 5th house cusp, and Aquarius is a sign on the 6th house cusp. I would say it's early, but like it's not that early for me. I just can't talk. So Capricorn is intercepted, which means that any planets in Capricorn, like Neptune, would have a more difficult time expressing than normal. And that's just how interceptions work. Again, since he's close to the last degree of Leo rising, Aquarius also rules his 7th house cusp. And so if you have an interception in your chart, that means that the opposite sign will also be intercepted, and that you will have houses, 2 houses usually ruled by one sign. So in this case, Cancer is missing over here in the 11th house. It's not missing, it's there, but you know what I mean. And then Aquarius and Leo rule 2 houses, also the 12th in terms of Leo. So 6th and 7th for Aquarius, and then Pisces rules the 8th house. Those were the ones I wanted to do. Now I'll show you the current sky because I said I would do that. So this is the current sky, not accounting for precession. I would like you to look here at this grid with the inconjuncts from Saturn and Uranus and Neptune, and then also today's date. It's the 14th. So you can see that his sun is being aspected by a number of planets. And then I'm going to scroll down. So now we're looking at the ascendant descendant, specifically the ascendant, and you can see that again he has an inconjunct, a square, and an inconjunct. And if you scroll up, you can see which planets these are. So inconjunct from Saturn, square from Uranus, and inconjunct from Neptune to his ascendant. And then I'll just point out, additionally, because these are easy to miss, I already said that the square is there, but people sometimes forget, like they pay attention to Uranus crossing the midheaven, but then they miss when a planet, in this case Uranus, squares the ascendant descendant. That is also a very important transit, so you can just focus here on this line and be like, oh, that's important, and then neglect to notice when this happens, because the Uranus especially is the planet of discord, and so the planet of discord making a square to your ascendant and descendant, which it would have to do at the same time just because of how geometry works, that just means you're not getting along with people and you are feeling really jolted and disjointed. Period. The end. Okay, now I'm switching because that's what we're doing here. So all the signs changed, and I need you to ignore that. And then we're going to do the current sky. So, again, see that this is different. Now this Saturn transit is exact today, right now, as I do this. And the Uranus transit is very, very close. I would consider these in aspect and in play when they're less than a degree. And with Neptune, it doesn't really matter. I've said that before, of like Neptune transits. They're fuzzy. When they're exact, they're extreme, but you feel so fuzzy that it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how bad it is, you're just underwater regardless. So what I am showing you is that Drake has 2 yods, because I pointed this out. This is the sun. So we have Saturn, the sun is here, Saturn and Neptune are conjunct, and then Uranus is in conjuncting the sun from the other side. So there's a sextile here between these 2 planets, and they are putting extreme pressure on the sun, which is Drake's chart ruler. So we have Saturn, which is a 5th house matter because it's in the 5th house. It's the intercepted ruler of the 5th house, so it's in a way more extreme. Neptune which is the 8th house ruler, which I would interpret, especially in this case, as lots and lots of money, because 8th house things are other people's money, but just tons of money, because he's filing a suit, he's paying lawyers, he's wanting money, like that tracks, right? And then they're in the 8th house, which is other people's resources. Then the 12th house, or the 10th house, clearly my brain is not doing so well today. I am on vacation, actually, so we'll just blame it on that. 10th house, Uranus transit. Uranus rules his 6th and 7th houses, and the 7th house is a legal house as well. Maybe he's having some relationship stuff. The 6th house is your day-to-day, and then it can also be critical thinking. And in the 6th house, you can have health issues, but you can also just feel like you're under a ton of psychological pressure, especially since Pluto, which we'll come back to in a second, is right here. So it just retrograded out of the 6th house. So that's intense mental pressure by itself, not aspecting anything, except it is aspecting something. But we'll talk about that in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, as I have talked about before, and in the past Drake video, I talked about yods. So this man has 2 yods. The more I see yods, the more I associate them with accidents, which I'm not saying that Drake is going to get in an accident, but that's thing one. I'm seeing them again and again and again in charts of people who die suddenly. Again, I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying I'm finding it, and it's weird. I haven't been able to draw conclusions on that. But the other thing is, I really think that yods are Neptunian in nature, regardless of whether or not Neptune is involved in the yod. And the reason that I think this is because Neptune, when it transits your chart, it takes you out of normal. So whatever is normal for you, Neptune distorts it so that it usually puts you in high pressure situations, but you just don't feel right, and you just don't feel like yourself, which would be the case, right, if you had a personal planet. So anything from the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, receiving on the receiving end of a yod. Because in this case, it's both his sun and his ascendant. We'll get to the ascendant part later. But you have energy that's currently in Aries, and outer planets making an inconjunct to your sun. So an inconjunct is usually a surprising aspect, which means you need to adjust. Like, it's a left field thing of being punched in the head and like, hey, you got to change. And then there's a second planet or second energy also in conjuncting your sun saying, hey, you need to change, from your 10th house. And your 10th house is associated with what you are known as publicly, your public face, also your career and what you intend to do. So if you have, hey, you got to change, and hey, you got to change, coming from signs that are not associated with the energy that you have in the first place, because I'll switch. Should I? Yeah, I'll switch back so you can see. This sun is in Scorpio. Scorpio doesn't have a lot in common at all with Aries. Scorpio doesn't have a lot in common with Gemini either. And so there's mass discomfort when you have like Gemini, light, quick, fast information that's really messing with your mind. Or Aries, like again, Aries is fast, but this combination is just weird because Saturn's not fast and neither is Neptune. So this is like, seriously, what the fuck? For anybody that got hit with the seriously what the fuck in the last couple of months, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because it's just like something you truly did not see coming out of left field, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's there. So this is an incredible amount of pressure on your chart ruler, your ego, and what you should do when you have an active yod is really a lot of self-reflection and internal stuff. Because what it feels like when you have a yod is that everything is against you and everything's going wrong at the same time and you're totally out of control. So, and that's the other reason why I think that yods are very Neptunian in nature, because that's the same thing that happens with Neptune transits, is you are overwhelmed by stuff that you really don't know how to deal with, or if you do know how to deal with it, it's taking a different form than it usually does. So even if it is something that's familiar to you, it's like I don't know, like like same plot, different genre. So if your life is normally a comedy, it becomes like a murder mystery or sci-fi or something, and you're just like, okay, like I understand what the characters are doing, but like, where am I? It messes with you. And so it's a really good time to go within yourself and really think things through and like be like, okay, I've got these two energies that are exerting a lot of pressure on me, and they are showing me ways in which I need to change. If you were the person who really wanted to like use this energy to grow, that's what you would do. If you're the average person who doesn't understand energy and how this stuff works, you're just going around kind of screaming like, what the hell? Like, dude, seriously, what is going on? And I mean, either way, fair. But that's why I'm so passionate about learning how energy works and then telling other people, because like, you don't have to do this the hard way. You don't have to keep banging your head against a wall and then wondering why it hurts, essentially. But yeah, his chart ruler and his sun being his chart ruler means that this is something that like he feels tremendously, tremendously deeply, because it's like stuff is happening at him that's outside of his control. And so, just a rhetorical question, is that a great time to file a lawsuit? I'm just like, that's just a question. Okay, so remember like that, again, I haven't watched my own video from a year ago, but I know that I talked quite a bit about this yod, the one to his ascendant, which is this and this. So the Neptune Saturn conjunction and then the Pluto in Aquarius, they are both very, very close to in conjuncting his ascendant right now. I'll switch back. I'm sorry for the switching, but just so you can see it. So here's the ascendant. He has a lot of things happening right now, but what I want to point to is this Saturn and then this Neptune and this Pluto. So Pluto's still far-ish off, but I would count it. Like, he's definitely still feeling this. So this is two yods at once. Your ascendant is also you. So it's like the sky is saying in no uncertain terms to somebody who would have this type of setup, like, this is a time to think about you and how you show up in the world and how you do your ego. Think about it, because when it seems like everything's going wrong at once, it's this type of energy and it's this type of pressure, and it's like, hey, this is a turning point, but it's not the type of turning point that you have control over. So just like go within yourself and think things through and do as little as possible externally while the furniture around you kind of rearranges itself. Because, I mean, yods keep you stuck. Inconjuncts keep you stuck. And the only way to get unstuck is to wait for the energy to clear. In the moment, you feel a lot of pressure to do something and to take action and probably to defend yourself, but it's one of the worst times that you can, again, which is why I link it to Neptune transits, because with Neptune, it's like the less you do, the better. Like, don't make major life decisions during Neptune transits, because then you're going to have to undo them, or you run the risk of like seriously screwing up your life. And I don't say that lightly. So yeah, last year, 1 yod, mainly this ascendant yod, and this year 2 yods. And now he's in the news again. And look, I know he's not the one who wrote up and filed the stuff that he filed. It just so happens that Saturn's in conjuncting his sun pretty exactly, and Uranus is so close that he's gonna get a lot of shit for it, and he'll be lucky if Kendrick Lamar doesn't do something else. Like really, you saw what happened. Just sit on your hands. Like, please. So, yeah. The energy that he has now is impacting his 12th house, his 1st house, his 4th house, his 6th house, his 7th house, and his 8th house. All of those are called into play just by these 2 aspects that I've been discussing. And I guess the last thing that I'll say, just for your edification, switching back once again, so sorry, I try not to do this all the time, but you have a special situation when your chart ruler also rules your 12th house, because your 12th house is the self-undoing house. So to have your chart ruler be both means that a lot of the stuff that you try and initiate doesn't go off well. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And so that's something to be careful about, just as you go through life and live your life, because it can make you a very introspective person, which you would have to be if like half the stuff that you try to do doesn't end well. Or, I mean, it's one of those, I'm sure that you could interpret it as like you're your own worst enemy. Because in the 1st house, you have a lot of control, but in the 12th house, you have none. So, whereas I don't have a lot of advice at the moment of, like, how to work with that, except for that I think that after some time of living that way, you might intuitively pick up on, like, oh, this is a good idea, I should pursue it, or oh, this is a bad idea, I shouldn't. Obviously, someone like Drake has been quite successful by our materialistic standards of what success is. So, he's not doing terrible. This obviously isn't something that will screw you over continually, but I think that more caution than normal would want to be exercised when you're having especially knee-jerk reactions. And, it's something that you adapt to over the course of your life, and you perfect it in a perfect world. And that's what I have to say about Drake this time. Questions, comments, concerns? I'm gonna listen to this again and listen to my mistakes to make sure that I can publish this. But I do take requests. I have been catching up on all of the documentaries I haven't watched in the last year, so I'm like super passionate about the people who are long dead, where I'm like, oh, I should do a video on this, and I'm like, no one cares, Joe. So, but I do take requests, or if there are things that I've said that you're just like, what the heck, drop me a line. josieforreadings@gmail.com is where to find me. And I'm always happy to hear from you. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.